I'm Carter Heath, and I'm the Regional Director for the National Wild Turkey Federation here in New England. And we are going to go through the process of taking care of your bird once you get it on the ground. And first thing that we're going to do is remove the beard. Some people will cut that out. I prefer to do the direct pull. If you pull directly up here, you pinch behind here, and you go ahead and pull, then that comes out nice and easy, just like that. So we end up with a very nice memento of the hunt that you don't want to set down on your table that you're going to be processing your bird on. So we're going to set this aside so that it doesn't get mixed up with the rest of our bird. There are several ways you can process your bird. Some people will pluck a bird. For the way I'm going to personally cook this bird this time, we're going to skin it. And before we get started, I'm going to say gloves. Some people wear them, some people don't. For today, I'm going to wear them. And now we're going to start with our first cut. We're going to go from about where the feathers meet the legs, and we're going to cut up to basically what would be the sternum. We're going to get that skin separated. Work around there. We're going to bring this, so I'm keeping my knife blade pointed up and very carefully so that we're not digging into the meat. I'm going to pull that aside, and we're going to work that. Make sure you're very careful with your knife. Having a good sharp knife is very important. Working like this with a dull knife is not only frustrating but can be dangerous. So always keep your knife blade kind of know right where you are. Pull a little of this back. Kind of use the knife so that you're not cutting the meat itself. Some people don't take the time to skin out and use the legs. I've found the legs to become one of my favorite parts. Good slow cook on these, gonna be wonderful. And you can kind of do some of this with your fingertips. So I'm gonna get up to here and there. So I've just pulled the up to where the scale meets the feather. And now I've got this free and easy. Get our feathers out of the way. And so now we have exposed that part of the leg, which is the drum. Okay, we got the first one done, so now we're going to move on over to the second one. And we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to start a cut. And we're going to work our way up again. Thing about turkey leg meat, it has a reputation of being very tough and full of tendons, but that doesn't mean you can't eat it. Slow cook really helps break down those tissues and makes just a really, really delicious flavored meat. Very carefully pull the skin away. Anytime I'm going to do work with that, I don't need to have the knife in my hand. I'm not going to have the knife because, again, I want to be very, very careful. Knife control is critical. Get right up underneath there. Separate to what would be the back of that drumstick. And pull against it, and so you pull right up to that joint, and that comes off nicely like that. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to start cutting our little Y incision up to what would be the sternum right now. So we're going to take this Y incision and we're going to go from where we just left off with our drumstick here, and we're just going to cut the skin, and this hopefully makes sense. We're going to cut underneath so that we're trying not to cut feathers, we're just cutting skin. We're going to make this Y incision that's going to go up to the sternum, and we're going to try not to cut into the breast meat, which is right attached to it. So there, we just did that cut right there. Now what we're going to do is get a finger under that skin and just work that connective tissue very, very gently back down. And we're going to get to a point, probably right about here, where we can set the knife down, get a good grip on that sternum, and just pull that back for now. So that gets us that area nice, that's exposed and ready to go, and we can see here's that breast meat right there. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this and go right up this sternum, right up this keel. So now we're going to take our knife, I like to hold the tip of that knife kind of up to my index finger, just so that I have total control, just like you're field dressing a deer. Get right up under there. And before we do that, I just wanted to show you, right here, you see that patch that has no feathers on it. That's his keel, and that's from breeding. He is one of the dominant birds, and so that shows that he was kind of wearing off feathers from engaging in the springtime activity of making new turkeys. So now we're going to continue this cut. And as we go, I'm going to just work very carefully to keep clean meat. And I'm going to come right up. And we'll get both of the pectoralis major on the turkey breast. We'll get that exposed here shortly. Again, put the knife down, hold on to that keel, and just pull that away. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. So it's really not that intimidating. If you can take care of a Thanksgiving turkey, you can do this. Even a roaster chicken. So now we're just going to get this all the way up. And this exposes his crop, which is always sort of interesting. I would not open that with a knife that you have intentions of using on meat. So that gets us kind of exposed for our breast meat and our thighs and legs that we're going to be able to pull. And that, we'll get that right about down to where the wing joint comes in, which is right here. I don't know if we'll see that once we kind of remove some more. And I'll do the same thing on this side. So now we've really, I want to make sure you can see this, we really opened up a good portion of our turkey. Okay, so at this point we're going to get ready to take the first of the breast meat off. So I'm just going to reach over and grab a gallon Ziploc bag and just get that open and ready. And I'll set that aside. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to start here again on the sternum and cut right along there. And you'll feel that up against that sternum. You want to just let that go against until you feel that, just that little bit of resistance. Let the knife do the work and just kind of scrape away. And then I'm going to come over to here and I'm going to start cutting up against this this bulbous knob right there, which again is the keel or the sternum. We're going to cut in and kind of use that knife to go up against, try to stay up against the bone as much as you can. It's almost like filleting a fish. We're not going to be getting into any intestines or guts or anything like that. Next step, so now that I've got that cut made, we can work our knife edge against what would be that belly in there. So very careful. It's a thin wall between there and the insides. So we don't want to really get into that if we can. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to pull on all this yellow material right here. This is all the crop. So I'm going to start a cut so I can get some purchase on that. You don't want to cut into the crop, but you want to just separate it. You want to just kind of find that point where it'll separate out from the breast meat. And it looks like we've got that right there. So now I'm going to move that like that a little bit. We have that available to us. And I'm just going to work ever so slightly to pull that away. And you can see how easy that comes away from that breast meat. And again, I'm going to set that down and I will get this other side. And here's another good view. Nice sharp knife helps out a lot. And again, you can do that with a pull. So we'll keep getting as much of that. That yellow, that's all fat. So now we're going to come right here. Oh, there's almost a seam. We're going to cut right up under there and work around to our initial cut, so that hopefully you can see we now have the breast meat laid over, and there's an artery in here that I want to actually get some paper towels for, because once we take that breast off, it's going to start to bleed a little bit. And I want to make sure that we don't have blood getting all over the place, especially on our nice cutting surface here. We're going to actually finish our cuts here. And I just want to point out this right here. This is what's called the tenderloin. Careful, because we don't want to cut into the thighs or the legs. There's a dividing line right there between that kind of light and dark meat. That's going to show us where to cut. Just a very gentle, you don't want to go too deep. Just enough. And what this will do, this will take this turkey breast right down to the wing butt, where we will remove and there is our artery. So I'm just going to be a little preemptive with that. And then this will work down over that wing knuckle, which is right there. Try to make sure we can see. There. And now we'll just come at it from right there. And there we have one very nice, delicious looking turkey breast. So now what we're going to do is throw that in our gallon Ziploc bag. We want to make sure that we take good care of the meat. It's a nice cool day today, so you know, we're doing everything right, but this is going to go right into the Ziploc and go right into the fridge and hopefully get cooked up very soon. Now we're going to get going and we're going to start to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to just work right down the sternum and right along that little cage, trying to make sure we get all the meat. And again, you can use your knife blade to kind of scrape almost. It's kind of a fine little way to do that. So that use your fingertips and that knife blade to kind of hold everything out of the way. And then we're going to work down. And it practically does it for you. You just follow right along. And again, we're going to get down to about the wing butt there. And there's our little vein that I'm just going to sop up. Vein or artery. Maybe the brachial, we don't know. There we go. Just because I don't want to get blood on my turkey breast if I can help it. Work very hard to keep it clean. And there we go. Next we're going to do the legs, but before we do, I like to keep a good edge on my knife, so I will just use a steel. It doesn't really sharpen, it just kind of dresses that blade up a little bit. So that right there will do a lot of good for you. So now we're going to go right to the legs. I'm going to start with this leg first. Now we're going to pull some of these feathers, just do a little bit more cutting of that connective tissue, pull some of that skin away. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to put my knife down, right out of the way. I'm going to put hand on the keel and take one hand on the leg, get right down on that joint, and we're going to push like that until you hear that little audible pop. And that's going to expose the hip socket right in here. I am going to pull away a little bit more feathers and skin, keeping that knife right out of the way. So what this is, right in here, this is all the innards. So you don't want to cut into this, otherwise it's going to get stinky real fast. You want to go take that knife and just go right up along what would be the back, right to that joint right there. And I'll get that so you can see. And I am going to take my handy paper towel here and just get that so we don't have a gruesome scene. And then I'm going to cut right along here. Try to get as much of this good meat as we can. There. Now, I'm going to pull all that skin right away, just like that. So I'm using my thumb instead of the knife right now, just because it makes it a bit easier. And that shows that has popped out right there. So now it's as simple as taking that knife, finding that, which is the pelvic bone, and we're just going to cut in. And then right up along and try to get as much of that good back meat right there as possible. There. Ready for the crock pot or the braise or the oven or however you want to do it. And now that we got that first side off, we're going to repeat everything, do the same thing we just did on the other side. And again, we'll get the feathers out of the way. Just a little bit more here, just a couple of little cuts, just to get this cleaned all the way down. And I'm going to set my knife down and put one hand on the keel, one hand on the leg, on the thigh here, and just pull right down until you hear that pop. And now we are good to go. And I'll just repeat what we just did on the other side. Get as much of this delicious turkey meat. I always like to keep the knife out of my hands if I don't need it there. And I'll just wipe that off. And then just work this back around. We are going to be taking the lower legs off. We'll show you that in just a minute. But I find it's a little easier to wait and do it afterwards because it gives you a little bit more leverage. There we go. So now we've put our legs aside for now, and we're going to work on just taking the wings off. So I'm going to take this piece of skin right here, poke through, and just cut like that to separate. And just more so I can show you where that knuckle is, that wing shoulder almost. So there's a tendon right there, which we're going to just cut. And that frees that joint up quite a bit. There. And again, just be very careful. I like to save my wings. I know a lot of people that use the feathers, whether it's for archery or whether it's for making the wing bones. One thing that you can do if you're not going to make wing bone turkey calls is you can cut this out as clean as possible and use these for soup stock. And now we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and just, again, I like to control that knife, keep that right up, and then that separates it in good shape there. If you are so inclined, and quite crafty, you could take these feathers right here and use that as a fly down item. So I'm going to just cut right around that. And cut the skin. And there it is. And there's our other wing. Beautiful, aren't they? Amazing creatures. So we've got our wings detached now, and we're going to work on taking the tail off. Now, the tail is a pretty easy do-it-yourself project that you can preserve your memory of your turkey hunt with. I like doing it. I love the way the tail looks. So when you're doing your tail fan, one thing I like to do is keep a little bit of what I call the back or the cape feathers. And kind of the way to do that is once you've gotten everything removed, you can kind of put a little tension on this. This is pretty delicate skin. We're going to work our way right through to the other side that we've already done. Okay, so I'll show you that. See? So we are all the way through. What I'm going to do next, because we're not going to use all of this, but I want a certain amount of the back feathers. So I like to be prepared with a little more. So I'm going to cut right down on my cutting surface. And that will remove the skin. There we go. There. All right. So now we have all these pretty back feathers that are ready to pull right up to the parson's nose, or the base of the tail. There. And so you'll find that there's a joint right here. So we're going to carefully not cut any of the skin, but we're just going to find that little area and give it a little twist. I think we have a little connective left over there. There we go. And I'm just going to cut some of the feathers in the back here, the skin. We don't need that attached. So now we have this very pretty, very nice fan with all the feathers. So now we've got the bird all dressed out. The breast meat's in the fridge, and we're just working on the leg meat here. I'm going to show you now how to take the knuckle off of the thigh and the drumstick. Very, very simple. You just start with this cut right here, where you're going to want to just make a cut and be very careful and cut all the way around very gently. And that will kind of expose that. So that spot right there, open that up and just cut right down. And then the last little bit of tendons. So you don't need to use a saw, which is handy because usually you don't have a saw when you're out in the woods. And that's a nice clean right at the joint cut. I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Something pretty wonderful about the wild turkey. Not only is it a lot of fun, but it's a tremendous good tasting source of protein that comes right from your own New Hampshire woods. I'm Carter Heath, Regional Director for New England with the National Wild Turkey Federation, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it brings you some information on how to process your wild turkey, one that, it's a resource that we're very passionate about. Hopefully this will allow you to get the most out of your harvested bird. I would like to just say that NWTF is a conservation organization that's been around for quite a while, and we do a lot of good things, especially here in New Hampshire. We work closely with New Hampshire Fish and Game to do a mentor learn to turkey hunt program, which is near and dear to my heart. So if you are interested in becoming a member of the National Wild Turkey Federation, please contact me, and we'd love to get you involved in what we do. Stay safe out there.